Hello, and thanks for checking out Missed Meals and Cold Coffee. I'm Chef Lethal, and I've had some mild success on the internet as a live streamer, so I thought I'd bring those talents and my own life experiences to chat with you about parenthood. I'll cover topics ranging from infertility to the adoption process, while hopefully having some fun in the meantime. Now, before we get into the episode, my legal team has prepared the following disclaimer.
This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Any medical advice or information given by the host, Chef Lethal, or any of his guests should not be taken seriously or acted upon without the express consent of an actual medical professional. Please call your doctor if you experience an erection lasting longer than 4 hours, as this may be an unintended side effect. Please follow Chef Lethal on Twitter at ChefLethalPlays and on Twitch at twitch.tv/ChefLethalPlays.
Now, with that out of the way, on to the show. Hello and welcome, hopefully, maybe even welcome back to Missed Meals and Cold Coffee. I am, of course, your host, Chef Lethal, and I'm feeling pretty good about this one. So if you haven't checked out the first episode, the obligatory introduction, I highly recommend that you do. For obvious reasons, it helps me out. No, I'm organizing these shows, at least the first several, in more of a chronological order of my life. And I think it's important that you start at the beginning and kind of work your way through. And just to make you all aware, I got a couple of housekeeping items that I want to kind of address right up front. First of all, I'm recording this live on Twitch right now. We've got Allie Rosepetal in the Twitch chat saying hello. So hello, Allie. You will be forever immortalized in this podcast. And also, I've got the first episode edited and uploaded to YouTube, to Twitch, and to Anchor.fm for audio only. And I want to do one more, so this one and then the third episode recorded, uploaded before I start actually scheduling the releases, just because I want to get ahead, just in case I miss a week or something like that. I'm kind of a little bit in arrears, I guess, would be the way to kind of put that. So I want to just make mention of that. Of course, if you're listening to this in the future, that means nothing to you because you're already listening. And again, in the Twitch chat, Rapak, how you doing, man? Thank you so much for joining us. And for anyone else that is maybe out there listening in the future, whether you're on YouTube, leave me a comment, say hi. I will absolutely say hello back to you. So continue on with the housekeeping. I want to mention last episode was my history. I kind of went into that already, my introduction, who I am, who my family is. The members of my family. I don't know how to phrase that sentence, but all of that useful information. But one thing I kind of wanted to amend to the topic, because I got into a little bit about how I feel or felt about having kids in my past. But I want to mention something because it really dawned on me last night, or not last night, but a few nights ago. I was hanging out with Mrs. Lethal. And even as I grew up, matured, or whatever, to the idea of having a kid, I never thought I would see myself being like super doting or, just being that, whatever cute thing. I am fully embedded in that life. I will admit, it's almost embarrassing. If you saw our nanny cam or our house cam, like if the NSA is hacking into my Wi-Fi system here, they're going to be disgusted and probably send a SWAT team to come take me away, because I look like a crazy person sometimes. But I feel like that's kind of normal. But I just want to kind of throw that out there, that in the history of everything, I kind of I am in a place where I never thought I would see myself. Also, I listened to the first episode and I made a few minor adjustments to my audio. I don't know if you can tell from the first episode to this one, but I lowered my bass, my lows a little bit on my mixer, and I boosted my highs just a little bit. I felt like my voice was really booming in that first episode. mainly because I had my settings from when I was strictly streaming and I wanted to sound really cool. But I feel like it was really boomy. So we'll see. I'll keep playing with it and make it sound as good as possible. And again, I have to take a moment to say hi to Dr. Boo MD, one of the long timers here. Actually, one of the few 50% of my moderator team that are pretty much unneeded anymore. But he's a great friend. Hi, Doc. Glad to see you here. Oh, my hair is getting in my face again. Okay. Next up, precisely zero of you have asked how you can support the stream or the show or whatever, and that's totally fine. I want to just mention up front, if you're on Twitch, we do accept, I'm a partnered Twitch streamer, so we have the subscription button. There are bits. I still have, I think, my old tip button if you wanted to throw $1 my way. I also started a Ko-fi page, so it's Ko-fi, it's ko-fi.com/Chef Lethal. And their whole thing is like supporting creators or people for the price of a cup of coffee. So they encourage like small tips and stuff like that. So if you go there, you can check out the page. There's really nothing on it right now. I just started it, and if you wanted to feel like, if you're listening to this audio only or on YouTube or something, you're not on Twitch, you can go there and say, you know what, I like this Chef Lethal guy, I'm going to throw him $1. It's minimal cost to you, but it means the world to me. So just throwing that out there. So I mentioned that the show is on anchor.fm right now. Well, will be once I start uploading them. And I think the way it works with Anchor is they will automatically submit the show to the other platforms. Because I tried this before. So hopefully it will get picked up by Spotify and Apple and all that stuff. But right now it'll just be anchor.fm, Twitch, and YouTube. And then I'm branding and kind of advertising this podcast as a podcast for everybody, whether you have children or don't, or want them or don't, or whatever. Especially this one in particular is going to be, I got to get all my caveats out of the way. So the caveat for this one, we're going to talk about infertility today because that's the first step after, like, I guess my history, because we went through it and it sucks and it's hard and people need to know that. So whether you have an issue, or even if you don't want kids, but you might have a friend. As we all get older, we're going to meet more people and make more friends, and you might have a friend or a couple friend or whatever, and they're going through infertility. You might want to know how they would like to be treated, or at least have some background into what they might be going through. And that's what I want to focus on here today. Little content warning, it's going to get personal. Like, obviously this whole podcast is about my life right now and my advice and my whatever. So of course the whole thing is personal, but this one in particular, it cuts pretty close to the heart. So if you are listening to this and you know me personally, this is what we were going through for all those years or months or whatever. And if you don't know me, then here you go. Here's a lot of information that you don't even know or care about, but whatever. It's important. If nothing else, like a little therapy session, because our story, everybody's story is different for the most part. I mean, there might be one pair of people that have the same situation, but everybody's different. So I can only share with you what we went through, and even then I'll probably get a lot of the details, miss some of the details, get some of them wrong, because it was I'm honest, it was a while ago and there was so much that happened. But I want to I just want to educate people and see, because if I knew that there was a podcast or something out there that was easy to digest for our friends while we were going through that process, like, that'd be really cool to send it over to them. Like, look, you're not helping. You're not being useful right now. Please listen to this 30-minute show and figure it out. Be cool. So that's most of the caveats. Obviously the legal intro that is on the audio, not on the stream, but I will be giving medical information, not advice, not anything like that. It's just kind of what we went through. So I just want to make everyone know I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm releasing myself from any responsibility, which is what you have to do these days, because Lord knows. Okay. So the first thing I want to do into the actual content, the actual meat of the episode, is define infertility. And it is strict. I mean, in my opinion, not the medical actual definition of it, but the real meaning of it is just the inability to have children naturally. So, or having issues, or something is preventing you from having children. Boom, full stop. So there's a couple of different ways that you can work around having or going through infertility. One is by tracking your ovulation cycle of the woman in the relationship, and planning your marital coitus time. Oh, this is gonna get so uncomfortable. Tracking your sexy time around that time. Um, after after that, there's also a process called IUI, and I made a note of myself to write down what it meant, what it stands for, but I have totally forgotten to do that, so I don't remember. The next step after that is IVF, which I think a lot of people are familiar with, and that's basically where. Okay, so IUI is where I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe it's essentially the doctors. I don't want to say inject, but inject um, the male stuff into the female portion, and hopefully the baby grows that way. And then IVF is the next step, where, if I'm not mistaken, they either actually inject. I'm putting myself into a situation where I'm going to get in trouble, essentially. But IVF is more along the lines of what we were calling a science baby. Maybe they take the egg out. I could do a quick look up right now. I feel like a complete Dumbo just talking about this, but um, I did a lot of research for this, as you can tell. And then the next step after that is like going through adoption process, fostering. You could do a surrogate situation, but we're not gonna get into any of that, or maybe we will. Who knows? IUI. So Dr. Boo in chat is saying IUI is artificial insemination. IVF is test tube baby. Yes. Okay. So there's that. So I wasn't all the way wrong, just mostly wrong. It's about right. So to kind of go into our actual background regarding this, back in, gosh, 2012, 2011, something like that, uh, Mrs. Lethal was complaining about her leg one night, and she was like, "Oh man!" And I promise this is relevant. So she was complaining about her leg. She's like, "Man, my leg really hurts. Look at it." And it was like 2 a.m, and I looked at it, and it was like swollen, like a flipping, like a balloon. It was huge, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So I looked up on WebMD, and we were searching, and I kid you not, I looked it up, and it said that what she had was likely a DVT, deep vein thrombosis, which is a blood clot. And I was like, "Oh man, I think you might have DVT." She's like, "Okay, well, I'll try to go to sleep. I'll take a Benadryl, go to sleep, and then I'll go to uh, emergency care the next day or whatever." So she goes to emergency care the next day. After, by the way, her boss gave her a really hard time about leaving to go to the doctor. So she gets to emergency care or whatever, like one of those not minute clinics, but what is Centricare, and was waiting there for like 2 hours because she wasn't high priority enough. And as soon as she got in the room and saw the doctor was like, "Go to the emergency room right now. This is serious." So she had a pretty serious blood clot in her leg, and because of that, that immediately put her at high risk for pregnancy. A history of blood clots immediately puts you at a high risk for pregnancy. So already there's this roadblock. At this point, we were very interested. We're getting to the point where we're interested in having kids. Like, oh shoot, okay, that's just a little complicated. It's not the end of the world, but it just kind of complicates things a little bit. So years go by, whatever. So then we start going through actually trying. And she had a condition called endometriosis, and I think this is relatively common as well. And the kind of untechnical way we have gone to describe it, or have it described to us by actual medical professionals, is like there's a lake of lava around the egg situation inside, and it's really difficult for anything or anybody to swim through that, if you get my meaning. So she had laser surgery to try to eradicate that. It didn't help. I had some of my own issues as well. Nothing terrible, but um, like, I don't know. We're all being honest here, right? So my prostate's a little small, just a tiny bit small. I don't know. I think my counts were pretty good for the most part. It was frustrating. I'll get to that part next. Um, so originally, in the beginning, we tried just tracking ovulation and timing, and that's not a whole lot of fun, but it's the more natural way. That's like the way you start. Like, okay, first of all, you just kind of randomly go for it, and you try. And I think we tried for a year or two, and then we're like, okay, something's happening. So then she started seeing a doctor, and they're like, okay, well, have you tried tracking the time of the month, basically? Because when a woman is ovulating, it's like the chances skyrocket for that to actually catch. But she had endometriosis, and we didn't know at that time, so it didn't really matter because things were getting hit by a wall of lava. Good fun. So we tried tracking and doing stuff, so that wasn't very good. And then I'll say this too, like, it takes away a lot of the fun of trying to have a baby, because it's like, okay, it's that week, put your take your pants off. And it's like, okay, we have to, there's no excuse, this is what we have to do. So when that wasn't really working all that well, we tried going into super ovulation, and that was, I think, I don't know, again, I should just caveat up front, I don't remember all the details, but pretty sure that was just like drugs to enhance the ovulation chances, or it really made like a 3-day period the most fertile possibility. And again, endometriosis, so that didn't work out too well either. It was like this whole time we were just throwing spaghetti against a wall, hoping that one of the noodles would stick, and they were just getting incinerated by a flamethrower of virus. I don't know if it's a virus or a bacteria or what endometriosis really is, but flamethrower all over that. And then we decided on IUI, and that was even less fun than any of the other pieces, and it didn't work. And it was really one of the really things the most frustrating was that throughout this entire process, every single thing we tried, the doctors would say, this is definitely it. We did a scan, we looked at, we did an x-ray or whatever, not a CAT scan, but we looked, whatever, ultrasound, you look great, like your body is primed for this process, this is definitely going to work. All you do have to do is track ovulation. That didn't work. Okay, all you have to do is this super ovulation, think happy thoughts, you're going to be great. Didn't work. Okay, that's fine, sometimes that happens. Let's try this other thing, think happy thoughts, it's going to be great, this is the one. Didn't happen. And then even through the IUI process, they're like, this is the highest chance without doing IVF. Hope you have your nursery ready, and it didn't work. So one of the biggest things about infertility is the monthly heartbreak. I mean, all we wanted was a kid. Like, that was the whole purpose of going through all this. And obviously we were ready to do pretty much anything. We just wanted to have a kid. That's what everybody, that's like, what the American dream, or whatever, the house growing up dream. You buy a house, you get married, or get married, buy a house, whatever, have a kid, whatever. And you have a little you running around the house. Sounds great, except when it doesn't. And the monthly heartbreak was just brutal. Like, every month we would have this emotional breakdown sitting on the couch or sitting wherever as Shark Week arrived for Mrs. Lethal. That's what we call her 28-day cycle, Shark Week. I heard it somewhere. That's not an original thought. Nothing I have is ever original thought. but it was brutal. Oh my god! It's like, and like it would have already been brutal if the doctors were just honest with us and said, this might not work, or this probably won't work, or this should work, or whatever. They were so sure that this was the thing. It would just take 3 months. Okay, well, 3 months of having your heart ripped out of your chest, Sub-Zero style. Wait, no, he rips out your spine. Who? Kano. Kano rips out your heart. So, Mortal Kombat reference for those uninitiated. So, 3 months of having Kano rip out your heart and just throw it down and stomp it, and just being emotionally wrecked, and then having to go to work the next day or that day. It's like, and nobody gets that unless you go through it, or read a blog or listen to a podcast. You don't get it. And we lost friends because of this. In fact, I lost a pretty good friend that I had just made like 2 years before all this started happening, because it was just the wrong time for me to have like somebody to hang out with, because like he was cool and I could probably open that door back up and hang out with him and it would probably be fine. But it's just everyone, like our parents, you don't know what to say. It's like everybody wants to be optimistic, and when your heart is being ripped out every month, you don't, at a certain point, optimism fails, and you start to have to look at the reality of shit. Maybe it's not going to work, and maybe this isn't meant for us. Maybe it's never going to happen, no matter what we do. And that's really one thing I want you to take away from this. If even if you're not going to have a child, or whatever, if that's not in your cards, but if you know somebody that could potentially be going through this is what I want you to take away. That every month that it doesn't work for them, they're devastated. Nobody wants to go through, going to some hospital or doctor's office and, working one out into a cup, and then, have your wife go, or, significant other go for a checkup to have those contents installed. Oh my God. I'm putting this, like, I can never take anything seriously, so I have to laugh about it because it's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous, but nobody wants to do that. The whole sole purpose of doing that is so that you have a kid. And when it doesn't work, it's like, well, I went to that office and I took time off for work, and I had to go and, make a deposit for nothing. And I get to do it again next month. Cool. I can't wait. My boss is asking me why I have to take off from work so much. And I just have to say, I have a monthly doctor's appointment. I wonder what it could be. But if you have a friend or know somebody or close with your neighbors or whatever, and they're going through this, if they've shared that they're going through this process, if they're going through infertility and they're trying these things, then the biggest piece of advice I could say is just be there for them. Don't try to make things better, because you're not going to. Unless you're some freaking magic worker, you're not going to make anything better by trying to help. Let them come to you for help. If nothing else, just be someone they can talk to, and be just a receptacle for emotion, for whatever they need. Because when you see them and you say, hey, how's it going? Either they're going to be false with you and say, oh, it's going great, it's going okay, going good, whatever. Or they're going to be honest with you and say, I just found out that it didn't work again and it sucks. And they start crying. So don't let that happen to you. It's all about empathy and treating people the best way possible. And I think knowing a little bit more about this, because we didn't know anything about this. No one teaches you this in high school, how to deal with this. There's no college course that I'm aware of to teach you about this. It's just, here it is, here's your life. Here are the cards you've been dealt. You have to deal with it now. And, sometimes you get a couple jokers thrown in your deck and you don't expect them to be there. But knowing what level somebody else is going through, and it's tough, and the people that you normally would rely on for support may not get it. And that's also really tough, like Mrs. Lethal's really close to her mom. I'm close to her mom. I've got a great relationship with her, but she's never got it. Like she didn't understand what it was like for us. She tried, but it was never like we knew or felt like she knew. I'm sorry if you see me on stream, like my hair is going bananas right now. I took a shower yesterday, so it's like extra. Read all about it. But that's the biggest part that I want to drive home, is that it's tough for people, and just have a little empathy. And yeah, men are affected too. Now, I have heard stories where marriages or relationships are negatively affected by this because it's a one-way problem. Like the woman has a problem, like she has endometriosis or whatever that would prevent her from having kids, or it's the husband, he's got a low count, or he's got prostate issues or whatever. And I've heard where that can actually create create a conflict in the relationship, because you want kids so bad and it's the other person's fault. And there's no, it's like you go through all this and it's like, okay, I had laser surgery for endometriosis and I had to do this and I've got to take these drugs and I got to do this and this. You don't have to do anything. It's my fault, whatever. So it, that's another thing to look out for. If you're going through that, it's, it's a really, I hate to say it, but it's a marriage tester. It can be anyway. If you're not married to the right person, or if you're not in a relationship with the right person, I'm just going to throw a caveat out there. I'm just going to say marriage, and I'm just going to say it because to me, that's what my experience is. I'm married, and, just whatever. If you're not married and you're having a kid with somebody, just assume that I'm referring to that. I can't keep throwing out this duplicitous language. It's driving me crazy. It's too hard for my little monkey brain. Anyway, so luckily I've got a very strong marriage, and we're best friends, and we are alike in so many ways. And in a way, it's like, okay, it's both of us. So of course it's both of us. Everything's both of us. But yeah, I have heard stories of marriages ending, relationships ending, because the other party who's not affected is frustrated because their partner can't produce. And I think that's pretty messed up. If it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. So I'll say in my notes, I have, yes, men are affected too. Men are affected. We try to play tough guy all the time, but one thing that I really grew personally through the infertility process is really understanding my emotions and just being emotional. And that's okay. A lot of guys, we want to be tough guys and whatever, men don't cry, whatever like that. I cried so much. And I'm not ashamed to say it, because that's what happened. I'm not less of a man for doing that. I wanted a kid so bad that every month it was, just like, no, you get beat down. It hurts emotionally. It hurts so bad. So yeah, it sucks, but that's what happens. And that's what happened to me. I was a part of the problem, but I still am willing to do anything for my wife, for my family. I'm willing to do pretty much anything. And if the infertility were 90% on my side, I'd do whatever it took. And that's precisely what happened with Mrs. Lethal. She did whatever it took, and I was there to help however I could, and we got through it. I mean, spoiler alert, we have a kid now, but the details of that will come in a future episode. And one closing thought that I have, and I wrote this down specifically, and I put, whether you believe it or not, sometimes a door closes for a reason. And, I know people talking about spirituality or religion or whatever gets a little dicey, but I'm a religious guy. I believe in God and Jesus. I'm a Christian. I try to do the best I can with that. And one thing that really helped us get through kind of the end of our infertility process was just letting the door shut for us. And that was hard, but we had to have faith, and we had to believe that clearly what we were doing was not working, and we needed to listen to what we feel like God was telling us. And what, obviously this is a small segment of probably who would end up listening to this show, but even if you're not a believer, at a certain point you say, okay, the universe is telling me that it ain't working. The forces that be are telling me that it ain't working. Whatever you believe is fine, but you have to believe that at a certain point the door's got to close, and whatever you're doing is not working, and you've got to try something else. That's one thing that is got us through the end. I want to say the quote unquote the end of the process is we had to let the door close. After months of IUI and trying, and months of heartbreak and months of whatever, we finally had to say, okay, you know what? We've spent a ton of money on this, a lot of energy, a lot of tears, and clearly it's not meant for us. And that was another decision that hurt. Like, that door didn't just shut, it slammed shut like on a fingertip. Like, it hurt. But then we started looking at other options, and other options being that I'll get into in the next episode. But just as a kind of a teaser, we're going to be talking about foster and adoption next episode. So we started investigating that path because we felt like we still want a kid, and if we can't have our own, well, let's have somebody else's. Oh man, when you put it that way, it sounds like we're just going to go to the park and steal some kids. But that did not happen. By the way, we did not go to the park and steal any kids, but we did start investigating that pathway. So, at a certain point, you can't fix it sometimes, so we stopped at IUI. The next step after that is like IVF, which, as Dr. Boo so elegantly put it in our Twitch chat, sorry if you can hear the garbage man outside, I have a highly professional studio right here. It's insane. It's so soundproof that I made that sound on my own computer. Just kidding, clearly. But so Dr. Boo so eloquently put in Twitch chat, IVF is test tube baby. So we felt that process was just a little too sciencey for us and didn't feel right for our situation, for our beliefs in life. And that's okay for us. Obviously I actually know people that went through IVF that have the same beliefs as I do, and they're totally happy with the decision. They had beautiful twins, and good for them. I'm very happy for them, and that's cool. We didn't want to do that. It's ridiculously expensive. So expensive. And it's not even guaranteed to work, by the way. So you could spend 10 grand on one session of IVF is like 10 grand. You could spend 10 grand and it doesn't work. Can you believe that? No, if I'm spending 10 grand, you better darn well give me a kid. You better make sure that thing works. The process, not the kid. The kid's going to work no matter what. But yeah, so one last shout out. I just want to say again, we are streaming this live on Twitch, and Almighty Banda dropped in to say hi. Banda, hello. Thank you for dropping in. And my old buddy Rav, how you doing, man? Thanks for the congratulations. As I spoiled earlier, though we went through infertility, we did just have a newborn child, and she's amazing. So I'm going to wrap up the actual podcast right now. I'll probably stay alive for just a few more minutes if anybody wants to hang out and chat. But if you're watching this on YouTube or the actual Twitch show, not the live stream, feel free to drop me a line. Hit me up on the Twitter, the Instagrams. I'm at Chef Lethal Plays on both of those. YouTube, Chef Lethal Plays there. I probably have some fancy URL that I'm not familiar with, but you'll find it. Just search for Chef Lethal Plays. It'll come right up. And then again, want to quickly drop the Ko-fi. It's ko-fi.com/Chef Lethal if you want to chuck $1 at me to let me know that you think I'm doing a good job. $1 doesn't cost much for you, but it means the absolute world to me. So with all that being said, I hope you found some of this podcast, some of this episode informational. It certainly was an opportunity for me to kind of open up my heart and relive those feelings that I was hoping to forget from all those years ago. I'm kidding. You can never forget something like that. And sometimes it's good to bring it back up, especially in this capacity. I just want to help people, whether, again, that you're going through or, somebody who's going through that process. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in to this second episode of Missed Meals and Cold Coffee. I'm Chef Lethal, and you are awesome.